Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment. 32 teams, 32 days, and today we're talking about the New Orleans Saints, the team that went to the divisional round last year in the playoffs but came oh so close to defeating the Minnesota Vikings. Are they ready to go back to the Super Bowl in 2018 to get Drew Brees his second ring? We're going to discuss that, to discuss the team's strengths, weaknesses, give you my statistical projections for the fantasy players offensively, give you some bold predictions for the New Orleans Saints, and end this video with my official win-loss prediction for the New Orleans Saints. So let's start by talking about their strengths, and we have to start at the top. We have to start with the man I aforementioned, Drew Brees. And Drew Brees, this man continues to be the man in New Orleans. Despite now being 39 years old, he still put up a good season, but a particularly odd season for his liking. Only 23 touchdowns to 8 interceptions and 4,300 passing yards. That was a modest season for Drew Brees, but still well over a 100.0 passer rating. He was a great manager for the New Orleans Saints, but not a game manager, not the stigma of game manager that we think of. He was an influential game manager, a guy that would often change the game as well as manage it. But as we know, the Saints wanted to rely more on their run game, and that is the next strength. These running backs in New Orleans, they are good, they are reformed, and really it's just because of one man, Alvin Kamara, whom the Saints drafted in last year's 2017 NFL Draft. What a steal the Saints got in Alvin Kamara. My goodness, this guy was an absolute beast last season, catching for over 800 receiving yards and rushing for over 700 as well, and averaging 6.1 yards per carry. My goodness, the efficiency was insane. Although he is a small running back, his center of gravity is insane. His ability to stay up front despite all kinds of carnage and wreckage coming across his legs, coming towards his mid-body. He'll jump, he'll hurdle, he'll juke, he'll dive. He uses that Madden right stick to his arsenal, and he gets out of the way as he goes towards the end zone. This guy's absolutely incredible. Mark Ingram is damn good in his own right. He continues to be one of the most consistent running backs in the NFL. Now, unfortunately, he is suspended for the first 4 games of the 2018 NFL season because of a substance abuse policy obstruction of which he had. Apparently, he took something that was legal, but he didn't get it approved for him to take it first. So 4 games for you, Mark Ingram. I'm sorry, but Alvin Kamara should be able to take the hold. Now, it's very interesting though, because Alvin Kamara, he never really carried the ball much in any individual games last season, so he's going to carry the load. We'll see how he does with. I think he's going to struggle a little more than some people will be expecting, but I still think he'll do overall, and you'll see that in my statistical projections. Next strength for this football team is the cornerbacks. Yes, finally, for the New Orleans Saints, there is a defensive component that is a strength for this football team. This was not the case for the past 3 seasons before 2017, but it certainly was in 2017. And this was due in large part to cornerback Marshon Lattimore, the rookie out of the 2017 NFL Draft, who absolutely tore it up. He was my highest coverage corner grade I've ever given. Okay, Jalen Ramsey is the highest cornerback grade I've ever given, but in terms of pure cover corner, in terms of coverage, it was Marshon Lattimore. And last season, you saw why the boy can cover. He has an absolute island. When he's going one-on-one with you, my friend, you're catching no balls today. I'm expecting more of the same from Marshon Lattimore. But they also have Patrick Robinson teaming up next to him, and Ken Crawley as well. And Ken Crawley continues to improve in his NFL career. PJ Williams is actually staying healthy, formerly out of FSU. They've expected him to contribute last season. He did. I like the cornerbacks in New Orleans. We move on to their weaknesses though, and really there's only 2 weaknesses to me. We'll start with the linebackers, which is the more concerning weakness to me. The linebackers in New Orleans still aren't quite good enough. Now, they're not bad, and they're certainly improved from where they were 2 years ago, but they're still not very good. We have Manti Te'o, who has been a disappointment in his NFL career. He is a decent linebacker. He's not a complete and total bust, but he's not that starting, really good linebacker that we all thought he was going to be. Demario Davis, formerly of the New York Jets, I think he's going to come in and do a decent job for this unit, so I like that possibility. And Alex Anzalone, formerly out of Florida, the 3rd round pick from a couple years ago, I think he can improve upon his rookie season where he did a decent job. But outside of that, Craig Robinson, AJ Klein, I'm tired of them. I've seen enough of them. AJ Klein didn't really do much for the Panthers. They're not missing him. Craig Robinson for the Saints has not done anything for years. So I still think this linebacker unit could use some improving. And if Anzalone can take another step forward, if Demario Davis has a good transition, it'll be fine. But right now, it is a concern of mine. And my biggest concern is the tight end position. Now, it doesn't really matter because the tight end position for Drew Brees, no matter who he has, he'll do something with. But Benjamin Watson, I can't believe this guy's career is still taking place. I can't believe it's alive and well. It was alive. I don't think it's very well. I mean, this guy is done as a tight end. He's lost all his speed. He's still able to catch the football decently well, but I would have signed some sort of athletic tight end or drafted some sort of athletic tight end for Drew Brees to mold, because Ben Watson, I'm so tired of seeing Ben Watson in this league. I'm tired of it. This guy is old news. Forget about old news. He is Jurassic news. My goodness, Ben Watson at the tight end position, and they don't have anything beyond him as well. As we have Josh Hill, who isn't very exciting at all, and Michael Ho'omananui, who is not nearly as exciting as his last name. We move on to my statistical projections for the New Orleans Saints, and we'll start with Drew Brees, and I'm projecting a modest year for Drew Brees. Only 4,100 passing yards, which would be one of his lowest marks of his career. Wow. 25 touchdowns, same one of his lowest marks ever. 12 interceptions and a 94.0 passer rating. Again, I think he'll be taking on more of this game managing role for the New Orleans Saints as they continue to run the ball and play more defense. Hey, it got them a good winning formula last season. I think they're going to continue to do that, so expect more of that. Running back, Alvin Kamara. Now, luckily for him, hey, Mark Ingram is out for his 4 games. It's time for Alvin Kamara to take more of the mantle when it comes to running the ball and being a leading back for the New Orleans Saints. So how about this projection? 220 carries, 1,075 yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. These are all rushing stats, by the way, for Alvin Kamara. I'm still expecting probably 700, 800, maybe 900 receiving yards in addition to these. And then wide receiver Michael Thomas, 100 catches, 1,200 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Now, I struggle with this a little bit. I have him going down a little bit from last season, mainly because the Saints did add in Cameron Meredith, okay, at the wide receiver position. Yes, he didn't play last season, but the season before that, he played decent. He's going to take some things away from Drew Brees in this offense in terms of the passing yards. And then also you look at Ted Ginn, who's a decent weapon as well. So I think Michael Thomas will have a little bit less of the share, but still well over 1,000 yards from Michael Thomas. So with that, so we move on to my bold predictions for the New Orleans Saints. And this is where things are about to get ugly with me and the Saints fans. Okay, Drew Brees shows significant signs of regression. Although Tom Brady continues to be the Iron Man of the NFL, Drew Brees last year showed some signs. Okay, they weren't very significant. They weren't negligible either, okay? And I think this year we're gonna see some bigger signs of regression. He's 39 years old, people. And again, although Tom Brady can push it, not everyone can. And I think Drew Brees, we're gonna start to see his arm fade a little bit. Again, his stat line that I have him projecting for right now is not very good. I mean, it'd still be good, but not extremely good. I think this is where the teeter-totter starts to tilt in the opposite direction. Number 2, Marcus Lattimore makes the All-Pro team and solidifies himself as a top 5 cornerback. Again, I give him the best coverage grade I've ever given any prospect ever, okay, that I've evaluated. It's only been 6 years, but hey, it's still something, and I'm expecting him to really become an all-pro and really ascend to that level, man. He and Jalen Ramsey are just the best prospects in the cornerback position I've ever seen. They're fantastic. I'm expecting nothing but greatness from these 2 men in the next decade. And then the last bold prediction, and this leads me into my win-loss prediction. The New Orleans Saints miss the playoffs. I am projecting a win-loss record of 9-7 for the New Orleans Saints. Now, before you jump down my throat, and you're probably already down in the comment section doing so, let's look at this ungodly thing, this satanic, ugly thing known as the New Orleans Saints 2018 schedule. Because people, this is brutal. Okay, the first 2 weeks we aight. Okay, you're hosting Tampa Bay without Jameis Winston. You're hosting Cleveland. No problems there. Then you're going to Atlanta. And I haven't made my Atlanta video yet, but people, I am high on the Falcons. Then you go to New York. Now, the Giants are going to win some games this year. I don't have them making the playoffs. I don't have them really competing for the playoffs, but they're going to win some games. That's dangerous. But then we look at week 7 and 8 at Baltimore, at Minnesota. Baltimore will be a playoff contender in the AFC, and we already know how good Minnesota is. And then the week after that, by the way, you're going to host the Rams, okay, who are one of the best teams in the NFC. And then you go to Cincinnati, which may not be very good, but that's a tricky game, okay? But it doesn't stop there, because then you got to host Philadelphia, and you got to face Atlanta again, right? And you're probably going to split with Atlanta, but, you know, you could win this one and then lose the other one, or vice versa. Atlanta's going to be a problem. Then you go to Dallas, and then you go to Tampa Bay with Jameis Winston, and don't say that it's not a problem, because they beat y'all last year, okay? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat y'all last year, so don't tell me no problem facing Jameis Winston over in Tampa Bay. And then you go to Carolina, and then you host the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then you host Carolina. Do you see the last 6-7 weeks of this schedule? The last 7 weeks of this schedule give me hell, okay? And the last 9 of the 10 weeks give me hell. Actually, 10 of 11. The last 10 of 11 weeks, I think they're facing nothing but playoff contenders, or they're on the road against teams that are dangerous in Cincinnati and Tampa Bay, where they're not very good, but if you're not careful, you can trip up and lose there. And I also look back to last season, and how did the Saints go 11-5? They swept the Panthers, which I don't see happening again. They whooped the AFC East, right? They whooped the Bills, and they whooped the Dolphins, and they whooped the Jets. You ain't facing the AFC East now, you're facing the AFC North. That's a significant step up. They whooped the NFC North, and they beat the Packers without Aaron Rodgers, 26-17. What if the Packers had Aaron Rodgers? That probably would have been another L for the New Orleans Saints. This schedule is way more difficult than last year's schedule, and I don't think the Saints improved enough. Marshawn Lattimore, he ain't gonna improve that much because they're already damn good. Same goes for Marcus Williams at the free safety position. There's not much improvement there to be had. Maybe Sheldon Rankins, I can see that. But other than that, I don't think the improvement was there. And then we have the regression of Drew Brees. He is getting older, people. We have to look out for that. Now, best case scenario, I'm wrong. Despite this difficult schedule, they just win games because they're just too good. Because they're legitimately really good, and Alvin Kamara really ascends. I can see him ascending into being maybe a top 5 running back, maybe a top 3 running back in the NFL. Okay, I can see that. And then they go 12-4. Yeah, even that I can only go 12-4 because you had your problems in the NFC South. The Saints never dominate the NFC South. It just doesn't happen. It's too difficult. Even though Tampa Bay, everyone agrees they're going to be the worst team in the NFC South. They're dangerous, right? And you know that. You lost in week 17 last year. With Jameis Winston, hey, week 14, it's dangerous. Okay, so you need to accept that. So, NFC South causing problems. The schedule is more difficult. I can only go 12-4 at the max. And then worst case scenario, I'll say only 8-8 because you guys should still be at least over 8-8 or 8-8 and above, okay? So I'll say worst case scenario 8-8, but my prediction is 9-7. These 10 of the last 11 weeks, I'm telling you, you're talking about 8 teams, okay, of these last 12, of these last 11 games, okay, you're talking about 9 of these games against teams that I think will be heavily competing, okay, for the playoffs, if not in the playoffs directly, okay? And then those other 2 very dangerous games on the road, at Cincinnati, at Tampa Bay. I mean, Jesus Christ, can I say it again? At Baltimore, at Minnesota, hosting the Rams, at Cincinnati, hosting the Super Bowl champion Eagles, hosting the Falcons, going to Dallas, going to Tampa Bay, going to Carolina, hosting the Steelers, and hosting the Panthers. That is brutal. And when I look at that stretch, man, I gotta say, no playoffs for the New Orleans Saints in 2018. And that surprises a lot of you. But finally, we have a surprising video in my 32 teams and 32 days series. So there you go, those are my thoughts on the New Orleans Saints. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow for the Minnesota Vikings. Are they ready to ascend to the Super Bowl? We'll discuss it then. This has been MJ Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. See you all later.